But at that point, all your...
Probably, I would say, I guess there probably is like an emotional hook, but I mean, I can't say that for everyone, and I'm not even sure what I would say for myself, why I still hold on to certain beliefs and such. I think it's different for every person who has actually took time and thought about what they believe and not just taken this leap of faith and said, oh, I'm going to believe this regardless, no matter what comes up, no matter what else happens, no matter who I meet, and yada, yada, yada. But for those who sit and think about it, I think, and they examine their own life. I know with my mother, a lot of things have happened with her where that belief sort of becomes ingrained and it's personal for her, and it's not really she's latching on to a dogma, but she's latching on to something she believes is true based on her own experience. And I think what I would like to see religion do is, instead of being this organized, dogmatic thing, is that for people who are religious, that they're religious based on their own experience, and they're not religious based on, oh, just someone told you to be religious, and it becomes, I guess, sort of existential for each individual.
Right. Well, you know, I usually say that just people create God in their own image, right? I mean, and it comes back to having that sort of parent figure concept. So, again, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is difficult to give that fundamental emotional need up for a lot of folks. Who knows? You know, that's just my... Tracy? Give us the benefit of your wisdom on this. Come on.
I tend to think that it's just something that's culturally endowed, if it wasn't indoctrinated as a youth. I mean, I've met so many people who were raised in secular homes since I joined ACA who didn't grow up with this idea that a God exists. And it really, in my head, reinforces that it comes from somewhere, you know, that it's not something that I watched a video on someone posted to the internet the other day, and they were talking about Muslims. There was 3 Muslims that were talking, and one of the guys was saying something about how there's very few verses in the Quran that deal with proving God exists. And I'm thinking, as an atheist, that's right, because why waste the paper since there isn't a proof of it? So it wouldn't get you anywhere. You can't prove it, so why would you try? But his summary of that was, the reason that it's not in there is because people are born inherently already believing in God, so there's no need to prove it, because we all already believe it. Well, I'm sure that in a Sharia law Muslim state, everybody does believe in God, because if you don't, you would be killed. And so here, you know, what it boils down to for me is that I think that people are instilled with it, not that they're endowed with it. So you get it later in life, and then you accept it or you don't. And if you accept it, even if you go through the steps of losing religious dogmas and doctrines, you still maintain that feeling that there's a God there. And for me, personally, that feeling was very strong, and it was the last thing that I lost, because I had gone out of Christianity, all on theism, all the way down, and finally it just dwindled out into, what am I looking at here? And I'm looking at a universe, and that's all I really see, and that's all that seems to be really real. And whatever I'm calling God has to be encompassed in this thing that is everything, which is the universe. And so when it got down to that point, you know, going backwards, I think what happens is when you're really tiny, they teach you God exists, and God is real, and Jesus, clap your hands, and the whole thing. And then you start to learn the apologetics and the doctrines as you get older and you can understand them. And then when it comes out in a lot of people, including myself, the doctrines and stuff go, and then that belief that was instilled at that really early age, before you even could think for yourself, is the last thing to go, because it seems like an inherent thing. It feels like something that is just as inherent as a heartbeat. And so it's very hard to drop it, because even if you intellectually think to yourself, I don't understand why I believe this, it's just this feeling that persists. And I don't know if that's your experience or not, but that was certainly mine.
Well, again, like, I don't think I know myself well enough to be sure, but, like, I think that's what it is for most people, but once you, like, I think when you have the whole religious experiences, you have a number of types of those. Like, some people say, well, from the way my life's been, the only way I could have gotten to where I am is if there was some sort of God leading me and guiding me and so forth. Not that that's a proof of God, because
That's their training kicking in. You know.
That's a dehumanizing thing again, though.
Yeah,
to say that what they did, they're going to say, I have to attribute it to something else. I couldn't possibly have done what I did.
Yeah,
that's sad to me.
That's part of that training. So
it's not so like I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not saying the point is like, oh, like just the way I am. I mean, I'm talking about examples where people say there were such difficulties that it's hard to explain.
No, I understand.
I see it as a dehumanizing thing, but the way I've had people tell me.
No, they think it's uplifting, but it is dehumanizing. That's my point. It uplifts them because they feel like, oh, I had somebody looking out for me, and they feel good about that,
Which is that
and they're
parent
happy and positive.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is saying, I could not have done this, even though they did.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the kicker.
Yeah, they've been convinced at the root that they are worthless, essentially.
But it's presented very positively, so I understand what you're saying. When they say it, they're not saying it in a self-defeating way. They're saying it in a very happy way, like, oh, thank God, God was there to help me, and he really pulled me through this, and it sounds all positive, but the underlying message is, I didn't do this for myself, even though they did.
Could not have done it.
Yeah, often it is, I couldn't have, yeah.
Anyway, Clifford, we've got a couple other callers lined up, but we appreciate your point of view, all right?
Yeah, thank you for calling.
Definitely, you take care.
And we've got William from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada.
He's on line dose.
Hi, William.
Hi. Hi.
How you doing?
Hey.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
You're good, yeah. How's it going?
It's just pretty good. You?
Good.
Fine.
Go ahead.
I'm an atheist, and I was calling in to ask a question about an argument I had with my mother the other day about the subject. She came to me and actually said to me that the reason why Stalin and Hitler did the things is because they didn't believe that did the things that they did was because they didn't believe in a God and they had no moral grounds, and that led to them doing the things they did.
Yeah, we get that a lot. We hear that a lot.
Yeah, actually, if you would like, William, I did a blog post not too long ago. It'll be still a little fresh. You might have to scroll down a bit. Do you know where our blog is at?
Yeah.
Okay, I did one called something like Can You Be Moral Without God? And I went through this whole thing. But the main thing is, I mean, yes, Stalin probably was an atheist. I mean, I wouldn't argue with that. Hitler, it's arguable. I don't know. He made different kinds of statements that could be interpreted different ways. The point is, people do things that are good and bad, whether they believe in God or whether they don't believe in God. It doesn't matter if you believe in God. That's not what keeps you from doing horrible things. What keeps you from doing horrible things is either your own moral conscience or the law. Otherwise, you'll go do whatever you want to do.
But here's the reason why this atheism leads to lack of a moral code notion is a complete load of crap, and that is that this notion that it is a theistic notion that God is the author of our morality, right? So therefore, it is also a theistic notion, theistic notion that if there is no God, then therefore we have no architect of our morality, and therefore we are all amoral and can do whatever, right? That is not an atheistic notion. That's a theistic notion.
Correct.
Atheists don't believe in God, so therefore we do not believe that a God is the architect of our morality in the first place. So no atheist would then, from that, make the logical conclusion, well, therefore, since there is no God, right? We can just do whatever, and there's no more. Right, it's a false premise. It's just like saying, well, the only reason that I don't defecate on the sidewalk is because of the existence of unicorns. But if there are no unicorns, that means I can go out and just start defecating on sidewalks. Cool. No, you see what I mean? There's like no real logical link between the two things, right? It is only because theists have been indoctrinated to believe that the only reason that there is right and wrong is because there's a God saying, all right, look, little from column A, little from column B. This is a, and so.
I did try and respond to the point she made by saying that I don't get my morality from this garbage. I get my morality from other humans who basically take us and judge us when we do things that we find morally reprehensible, things that are harmful to the society in general, sort of like, well, the example of killing 6 million Jews is completely morally reprehensible, and it's harmful.